Picture this, a religious organization that categorically states it doesn't collect tithes from its members. No 10% of salary requirements, no mandatory contributions, no explicit financial pressure. At first glance, it seems impossible. How could such an institution not only survive but thrive on a global scale? This is precisely the enigma surrounding the Watchtower Society, the organization behind Jehovah's Witnesses. While churches around the world depend on compulsory tithes and offerings to keep their doors open, this organization has built a financial empire spanning over 240 countries, maintaining monumental administrative complexes and producing religious literature in more than 1,000 languages. The numbers alone are staggering. We're talking about an organization that coordinates the activities of approximately 8.6 million active members worldwide, operates tens of thousands of kingdom halls, and maintains a printing operation that would make major publishing houses envious. Yet, walk into any of their meetings, and you won't see collection plates being passed around. You won't hear sermons pressuring members to pay their dues to God. So how do they do it? How does an organization that prides itself on not demanding financial contributions manage to sustain what is essentially a multinational corporation dressed in religious garb? The investigation begins, following the money trail. Our investigation into this financial mystery began when former members started speaking out about what they witnessed behind the scenes. Sarah Mitchell, name changed for privacy, a former Jehovah's Witness who served in various administrative roles for over 2 decades, was one of the first to point us toward the real story. People think because they don't pass collection plates, there's no money involved, Sarah told us during a lengthy interview. But that's like saying because you don't see the engine, the car doesn't have one. The financial machinery is there, it's just hidden from plain sight. Sarah's revelation led us down a rabbit hole of financial structures, real estate dealings, and volunteer labor exploitation that would make even the most cynical Wall Street executive raise an eyebrow. What we discovered was not a simple religious organization surviving on goodwill, but a sophisticated financial operation that has mastered the art of wealth accumulation while maintaining a facade of modest spirituality. The first piece of the puzzle lies in understanding how the Watchtower has revolutionized the concept of religious giving. While traditional churches make their financial needs obvious, passing collection plates, making direct appeals for money, setting tithing goals, the Watchtower has perfected what could be called stealth fundraising. Walk into any kingdom hall, and you'll notice something peculiar. Small, unmarked boxes discreetly placed near the entrance and exit. These innocuous containers are the modern equivalent of collection plates, but their placement and presentation are psychologically brilliant. Unlike the social pressure of a collection plate being passed from person to person, these boxes allow for anonymous giving, which paradoxically often results in more generous donations. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, a behavioral economist who has studied religious giving patterns, explains the psychology. When people feel they're giving voluntarily without social pressure, they often give more than they would under compulsory systems. The Watchtower has tapped into this fundamental aspect of human psychology. But here's where it gets interesting. These local donations are just the tip of the iceberg. What many members don't realize is that their local contributions are part of a much larger financial ecosystem. Local congregations are expected to send regular funds to regional headquarters, which then flow to national and ultimately international headquarters. It's a sophisticated funnel system that concentrates wealth at the top while maintaining the illusion of local autonomy. Marcus Thompson, another former member who served as a congregation treasurer, revealed the pressure behind the scenes. Every month, we had to meet certain suggested contribution amounts to send up the chain. If we fell short, we'd get friendly visits from traveling overseers asking about our spirituality and generosity. The pressure was real, it was just never called pressure. Perhaps the most shocking discovery in our investigation was the scope of the Watchtower's real estate operations. This isn't just about owning church buildings. We're talking about a real estate portfolio that rivals major commercial developers. The story begins in Brooklyn, New York, where for decades the Watchtower maintained its world headquarters in a complex of buildings that included the famous Watchtower sign visible from the Manhattan Bridge. What seemed like a modest religious headquarters was actually sitting on some of the most valuable real estate in America. In 2016, the organization announced it was moving its headquarters to Warwick, New York, citing the need for better facilities. What they didn't advertise was that this move would trigger one of the largest real estate liquidations in New York City's recent history. Property records show that between 2004 and 2018, The Watchtower sold Brooklyn properties worth over $1.2 billion. Let that sink in for a moment. An organization that claims to operate on voluntary donations just liquidated over $1 billion in real estate assets. The crown jewel of these sales was the Watchtower headquarters building itself, sold for $340 million to a development company. Other properties in the portfolio included residential buildings, warehouses, and office complexes, all sold at peak market values during one of New York's hottest real estate periods. Real estate broker Jennifer Walsh, who was involved in several of these transactions, described her surprise. "I've handled sales for major corporations and wealthy individuals, but I've never seen a religious organization move this kind of real estate volume. They were incredibly sophisticated in their timing and pricing strategies." But Brooklyn was just the beginning. Our investigation revealed that the Watchtower has been quietly buying and selling properties worldwide for decades. In countries like Germany, Australia, and Canada, the organization has been involved in real estate transactions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What makes this particularly intriguing is how these properties are acquired in the first place. Many kingdom halls and assembly halls are built using volunteer labor and donated materials, meaning the organization's initial investment is minimal. Yet when these properties appreciate in value or are no longer needed, they're sold at full market price, with all proceeds going to the central organization. If the real estate empire was shocking, the scale of volunteer labor exploitation was downright astounding. The Watchtower has created what might be the largest unpaid workforce in the world, and it's all done in the name of religious service. Consider this: the organization's new headquarters in Warwick, a sprawling complex that would cost hundreds of millions to build using contracted labor, was constructed almost entirely by volunteers. These weren't casual weekend helpers. We're talking about skilled tradespeople who took months or years off from their paid jobs to work for free. James Rodriguez, a former construction volunteer, shared his experience. "I spent 8 months in Warwick, working 6 days a week on electrical systems. I used up my vacation time, took unpaid leave, and even paid for my own accommodation and meals. At the time, I felt blessed to serve. Looking back, I realize I was providing skilled labor worth tens of thousands of dollars for free." The scope of this volunteer system extends far beyond construction. The organization operates printing facilities, administrative offices, and even farms using volunteer labor. In their headquarters facilities around the world, volunteers handle everything from food preparation to legal work to graphic design. Perhaps most remarkably, the organization has managed to frame this free labor as a privilege. Volunteers often compete for positions, viewing assignments as spiritual honors rather than economic exploitation. This psychological framework allows the Watchtower to maintain a workforce that most corporations could only dream of: highly motivated, unpaid, and grateful for the opportunity to work. Economic analyst Dr. Patricia Chan calculated the value of this volunteer system. If you were to hire professional contractors and employees for all the work currently done by Jehovah's Witness volunteers, you'd be looking at labor costs in the hundreds of millions annually. It's essentially a massive subsidy that allows the organization to operate at a fraction of normal business costs. The financial advantages don't stop with free labor and real estate profits. As a religious organization, the Watchtower enjoys tax exemptions that would make Fortune 500 companies envious. In most countries, the organization pays no property taxes on its kingdom halls, assembly halls, or administrative facilities. No income taxes on donations or investment returns. No sales taxes on literature and publications. These exemptions represent millions in saved costs annually, money that can be redirected to expansion and investment. But the tax strategy goes deeper than simple exemptions. Our investigation uncovered a complex web of subsidiary organizations and legal entities that maximize tax benefits while minimizing financial transparency. Tax attorney Michael Roberts, who has studied religious organization structures, explained, "The Watchtower has created one of the most sophisticated tax-efficient structures I've seen. They've essentially built a multinational corporation that pays almost no taxes anywhere in the world." In some countries, the organization has been so successful at obtaining tax benefits that local governments have had to change their laws. In France, for example, the government eventually classified the organization differently after concerns about the scope of its tax exemptions. While many focus on donations and real estate, another significant revenue stream flies completely under the radar: the massive literature operation. The Watchtower produces more religious literature than almost any other organization in history, and this publishing empire is carefully designed to generate revenue while appearing to be purely evangelical. The numbers are staggering. The organization produces magazines, books, and digital content in over 1,000 languages. Their main publications, The Watchtower and Awake magazines, have print runs that rival major commercial publications. Yet members are encouraged to place, essentially sell, this literature in their door-to-door ministry work. Here's how the system works. Congregations order literature from the organization, paying for production costs. Members then take this literature and request donations from the public when placing it. Any donations received are supposed to be sent back to the organization. It's a distribution system that ensures the organization never loses money on production while generating additional revenue from public donations. Former member Lisa Chong, who tracked literature accounts for her congregation, revealed the financial pressure. We were constantly encouraged to order more literature, even if we couldn't place it all. The message was clear. Ordering literature was a measure of faith. Congregations that ordered less were seen as spiritually weak. Digital distribution has only amplified this revenue stream. The organization's website and mobile app generate millions of downloads, supported by donation requests that are much more prominent in the digital format than in physical meetings. Perhaps the most closely guarded secret of the Watchtower's financial operation is the scope of its investment activities. While the organization maintains a modest public image, financial documents and insider accounts suggest massive reserves and sophisticated investment strategies. Former headquarters worker David Kim, who had access to financial information during his tenure, provided shocking insights. People think the organization lives hand-to-mouth on donations, but they maintain investment portfolios that would make pension funds jealous. We're talking about diversified holdings in stocks, bonds, and real estate investment trusts. The organization's approach to investments appears to follow a conservative but growth-oriented strategy. Unlike some religious organizations that avoid certain investments for moral reasons, the Watchtower seems primarily focused on returns, with investments spanning various sectors and geographic regions. This investment income provides a steady revenue stream that's independent of member donations, creating financial stability that allows for long-term planning and major projects. It also means that even if donation levels drop significantly, the organization could continue operating on investment returns alone. Understanding the true scope of the Watchtower's financial operation requires looking at how money flows globally within the organization. This isn't a loose federation of independent churches. It's a highly centralized financial system with sophisticated money management. Each local congregation is essentially a collection point for a global financial network. Money flows upward through regional offices to national headquarters and ultimately to the world headquarters in Warwick. This concentration of wealth allows for massive projects that no individual congregation could afford. The organization's ability to move money across borders also provides significant advantages. When favorable exchange rates or investment opportunities arise in different countries, the organization can quickly reallocate resources. This financial agility is typically associated with major multinational corporations, not religious organizations. Former international volunteer Sarah Martinez witnessed this system firsthand. I saw how quickly funds could be moved around the world for major projects. When they decided to build a new branch office in Africa, money appeared seemingly overnight from congregations on other continents. The financial coordination was more sophisticated than most businesses I've worked for. While investigating the Watchtower's financial success, we couldn't ignore the human stories behind the numbers. The organization's financial model depends heavily on the dedication and sacrifice of its members, often in ways that those members don't fully understand. Consider the story of Robert and Mary Johnson, names changed, who spent 30 years as full-time volunteers at various Watchtower facilities. During this time, they provided skilled professional services while living on minimal allowances and no retirement savings. When health issues forced them to leave volunteer service in their 60s, they found themselves financially destitute despite decades of valuable service. "We gave our best years to the organization," Mary told us. "We believed we were serving God, and that He would provide for us. The reality is that we sacrificed our financial future for an organization that accumulated billions while we struggled." Stories like the Johnsons are not uncommon. The organization's financial model relies on members prioritizing volunteer service over personal financial security, often leading to long-term financial hardship for the most dedicated believers. One of the most troubling aspects of our investigation was the lack of financial transparency within the organization. Unlike publicly traded companies or even many other religious organizations, the Watchtower provides minimal financial disclosure to its members or the public. Former insider accounting worker Patricia Lee described the secrecy. Members were always asking about how donations were being used, but we were instructed to give vague answers about worldwide work. The actual financial statements were available only to a very small circle of leadership. This lack of transparency has led to legal challenges in several countries. In the United Kingdom, the organization faced scrutiny from the Charity Commission about its financial practices. In Australia, the organization has been questioned about its handling of child abuse settlements and how these are funded. The secrecy extends to property ownership as well. Many kingdom halls that were built by local congregations are actually legally owned by the central organization, meaning local members have no real control over properties they helped build and maintain. As our investigation concludes, the question remains: is this financial model sustainable, and what does it mean for the future of the organization? The Watchtower has certainly created a financial system that provides remarkable stability and growth potential. The combination of volunteer labor, tax exemptions, real estate appreciation, and investment returns creates multiple revenue streams that don't depend on traditional religious giving. However, there are signs of potential challenges. Younger generations of members seem less willing to make the financial sacrifices that previous generations accepted. Digital technology is reducing the need for printed literature, potentially impacting that revenue stream. And increased scrutiny from governments worldwide may reduce some tax advantages. Religious studies professor Dr. Anthony Williams offers this perspective. The Watchtower has created perhaps the most financially efficient religious organization in history. But this efficiency comes at a cost, both to members who sacrifice for an organization that doesn't reciprocate, and to the spiritual mission that can become secondary to financial considerations. Our investigation has revealed that the Watchtower's claim of operating without tithes, while technically true, obscures a far more complex and profitable financial reality. This is an organization that has mastered the art of wealth accumulation while maintaining a facade of spiritual modesty. The true genius of their financial model lies not in any single strategy, but in how multiple revenue streams work together synergistically. Volunteer labor reduces costs while real estate investments generate profits. Tax exemptions preserve capital while global money flows optimize opportunities. Member donations provide operating funds while investment returns ensure long-term stability. For members of the organization, understanding this financial reality is crucial for making informed decisions about their level of involvement and personal sacrifice. For observers of religious organizations, the Watchtower represents a case study in how traditional religious structures can be adapted to create highly efficient modern enterprises. The story of the Watchtower's finances is ultimately a story about transparency, sacrifice, and the complex relationship between spiritual devotion and financial reality. It's a reminder that even in matters of faith, following the money often reveals truths that official statements prefer to keep hidden. As one former member told us in closing our investigation, "I always wondered how an organization that claimed to be so humble could afford such grand facilities and global operations. Now I know, they didn't need a miracle to fund their work. They just needed to perfect the art of financial engineering while keeping their followers focused on spiritual rather than material concerns." The Watchtower may not collect traditional tithes, but they've created something far more valuable: a financial system that generates billions while maintaining the loyalty and sacrifice of millions of believers who never see the books.